I'm Julie Webb. I'm one of the counsellors from the Counselling and Wellbeing team here at ARU. And I'm sat here with Shell Meads and Elle Newton talking about physical activity. And Shell, I just wonder if you can introduce yourself.
Hi, so I'm Shell Meads. I'm a third year BA Honours English Literature student. I'm also the course and faculty rep for AHESS faculty.
Great. And what is it that interests you about physical activity?
I think physical activity is quite important to me. As a mum and a mature student, it's a really nice opportunity for me to actually bond with my 14-year-old son. I think any mature or parents out there listening will know that usually you get a grunt from your teenager if you try and talk to them. But actually physical activity is something that we are able to do together. We play tennis regularly. I'm not as good as him, so I have to admit defeat quite often, but it's kept that line of communication and bonding with him open as he's growing up. It gives us both an opportunity to get out of the house, have some playtime together. You know, it's more relaxing and it's a good way to have conversation and just get some stress out of our days on the court together and just have a bit of fun together. So for me, physical activity is something that keeps me connected with my child, and it's also a good way for me to finish university, get home and get some stress out at the end of the day. So I just think it's a really nice way to wind down and kind of keep communication going in my own family, really.
Excellent. And tell me, why do you think students want to hear about physical activity?
I think for many students, it's probably not something they've explored before. So the opportunity to see what physical activity you can do in their university journey and how that can complement their studies is something that they're probably interested in kind of getting into and finding out how it can complement their studies.
Excellent. And I'm going to introduce you to Elle from Team ARU. I wonder if, Elle, you could say a bit about your role at ARU.
Hi there, I'm Elle. I am the Sports Participation Officer for Team ARU. My team is responsible for running recreational and competitive sport for staff and students at the ARU campuses. And my main role is to try and encourage students to get active, to meet new people and use physical activity as an opportunity to look after themselves and find enjoyment through sport.
Elle, have you always been physically active? Have you always been involved in sports? And when you were a student and studying, is that a path you followed?
So I've always had a huge interest in being physically active and team-based sports. But when I was a student here, I actually studied education and childhood studies. So I didn't actually study a sport-based course, but I always had a personal interest in sport. When I was at sixth form or college, we didn't really have much sport available. So I had a couple of years of studying for my A-levels where I actually wasn't very physically active. And when I came to university, I always said to myself, I'm going to join a sports team. And I've always been hugely interested and I've always played netball. So that was an obvious choice for me to come to university and to go along to what I thought was a social netball team. So I signed up to join the netball team at the Welcome Fair. And I went along to what I thought was going to be a fun taster session where it actually turned out to be a trial for the university team. And I hadn't played for a couple of years, so I was a little bit worried about it. But I trialled and luckily remembered all of the rules of netball and I got into the team. And then I stayed on the university team for my 3 years at ARU. And in my third year, I put myself forward to be their second team captain. So I got the opportunity to lead the team in all of our fixtures and try and bring home some wins. We didn't bring home that many. But it was a great opportunity for me to be physically active whilst I was at university. But it was also my main social circle because I had a group of 20 girls that I would see 2-3 times a week that I got to socialise with whilst doing my favourite thing, which was being physically active and playing netball.
That's so encouraging because what you're telling me is actually it's something that evolved for you. It wasn't a plan necessarily, and it evolved and took off down little paths that you didn't expect.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't part of the plan, but I'm so glad I did it looking back now because it was my escape at the end of a busy day at university to go and train with all of my friends and have fun playing a game of sport that I really, really enjoy, but also gaining the physical benefits of it as well. And my fitness massively improved because I hadn't done sport for a while prior to university.
So out of something organic, actually, there were great benefits. So now we have all our introductions. I'm going to leave it to you two to have a conversation about physical activity.
Hi, Elle. It's nice to meet you. So could I ask you to give a definition for us of what physical activity is?
Yeah, so physical activity is any form of movement through your body, which includes the movement of your muscles and expands energy. It's physical movement that we do day to day in our lives. So there are endless opportunities available through physical activity.
Brilliant. So if I was to say to you, running up and down the stairs with 3 loads of laundry a day would be physical activity, then I'm on the right track. So you're not telling me I've got to go and join a team to be active.
Yeah, you're definitely on the right track. It's not about joining a team and getting involved in competitive sport. It's not about going out and pushing yourself to the limit and running a 5K run or training for a marathon. You're being physically active by doing those runs up and down the stairs to collect your laundry, or walking to the supermarket to collect your shopping, or getting on your bike and riding into university. Those are all aspects of physical activity that you're doing day to day, and it's getting your body moving.
So we've talked about the fact that physical activity can range from running up and down the stairs and that there's a team, but could you give us a summary of exactly kind of what areas we can fit sport into? So if I was to say to you, you've given me physical activity, we know it can be daily, we know it can be a team sport, but how would you really clarify it, if you could, in simple terms for everybody, as what it actually encompasses?
Physical activity can be divided into 4 different areas. So the first area is for play and enjoyment. So that's as simple as taking a ball to the park and throwing it around with your friends, or going and having a kickabout with your friends after work. It's doing it for enjoyment, it's doing it for fun. There's no structure. It's often very spontaneous, and it's sort of out of your usual routine. So you can get involved in physical activity for play. So the second option is kind of daily physical activity, which can include walking to university. It can include going about doing household chores, making those active choices to avoid public transport and walk to run your errands or walk into university. Or it can be kind of daily family community activities. So another option is sport. So that's getting involved in structured and competitive activities that could include anything from taking part in football, netball, to squash or badminton. And we can play these as part of a team or on our own. And they're fun and interactive, and they're a way of exercising without feeling like you're actually exercising. These activities often vary in intensity as well, so they can be quite high intensity, dependent on the level that you're performing at. And finally, we have exercise. So this is purposeful activity that's carried out to improve your health and improve your fitness. And this can include things such as jogging, it can include cycling, going to your local gym, or using weights to increase your strength.
So we're kind of ticking a box in terms of general physical activity in those little moments. But if we wanted to push that a bit further, okay, we're not ready for that 5K. That's a scary goal in the future, maybe. So what could we do in that meantime as a student? Like, what would you encourage us to get involved in if this is our first kind of exploration into getting moving, but a bit beyond what we do every day?
I think it's about making those choices to move rather than pick convenience. So I think it's quite easy day to day to think, oh, I can't be bothered to walk into university today. I'm going to hop onto an electric scooter, or I'm going to get in an Uber and get a lift down the road to get to university. Whereas actually making that 15-minute walk is already making a choice to be physically active and putting yourself first. And then you'll see the benefits from being physically active by just making that choice.
So you kind of see this a bit like, you get your timetable of study. So within that timetable, carving out those little extra time to add in that activity. Like you say, don't grab an Uber, try and walk if you can. And on campus as such, we say TMARU, that's quite a big umbrella of things that you do. So where would your starting point be for anyone who is maybe new? They came to you and said, I haven't done it before. What is the first step that you would kind of encourage them to have a look at within your services?
The first thing I would say is come and speak to us first, and share those concerns with us, because we're open to supporting any student that's nervous about taking part in physical activity for the first time or doesn't know what they want to do. And then we can put you in touch with the right team member, because all of our team members are responsible for different areas of physical activity. And then what I would suggest is that you come along to one of our campus sport sessions. So campus sport is a timetable that we run in Cambridge, Chelmsford and Peterborough. And it's weekly sport activities that run every week and are led by students. And the main aim of those activities is to meet new people, is to get active or try a new sport and to have fun. There's no commitments there. There's no pressure to be an amazing sports person. It's just an opportunity for you to get active and enjoy getting involved in physical activity without feeling that pressure of having to compete and get excellent results. All of those sessions are available every week. They are free to attend, or they cost just £1. So we try and keep the cost cheap for students to take part in. And they run every week and they're led by our student sport activators.
Brilliant. So you've really got that basic level of, we'll encourage you into something for you to find something you can enjoy. And time-wise, are they limited activity time? So how much would you expect someone to commit to those activities?
So like I said, there's no commitment. The activities that we offer massively varies. So we offer kind of team-based sports such as volleyball, we offer football, netball, but then we also have a jogging group available. So if you're wanting to get into jogging, you can go along to our jogging group. We also have a swimming lane available. So if you want to book a swimming lane in your lunch break, go and have a swim for £1. You don't have to talk to anyone. You just go along, go for your swim. And then after that, you go back to your university classes. So there's something available for everyone. The timings are the same every single week. So we keep the timetable consistent. We sometimes add in an extra activity here and there, but the timings for all of our core activities are the same every week. And like I said, there's no commitment. We don't expect students to turn up every week. We have some students that are committed regulars and they go along every single week to the sessions that they want to go to. But we also have students that will come along every now and then when they feel like it. And that's the great thing about campus sport, is there's no pressure to go along to those sessions. You can go along as much or as little as you like.
And in terms of kind of, we talked about this socialisation of sport and how you can get into that. So I don't want to do sport maybe. So how would I socialise with those that do? Is there an option to come along and watch your games? And what benefit would you say that would give me if I didn't necessarily feel quite ready to join the sport, but could I come and watch and see what it's all about before I have to make that choice?
Yeah, so in Team ARU, we have lots of sports clubs that compete competitively. So our sports clubs is different from the campus sport programme I've just spoken about. So our sports clubs are students that want to go and compete at a particular sport against other universities. They are student-led sports clubs that have committees that run and organise them, and they compete in fixtures every week against other universities in the UK. Those fixtures are either home or away. So students have the option to, when those fixtures are at home, they can go along and they can watch and they can be a spectator on the sideline. It's an opportunity to watch live sport for free. It's an opportunity to maybe go along and see if you like the idea of joining that sport, or see if you've got an interest in that particular sport. You can then go along, you can spectate at it and then decide maybe later on, actually, I'd like to give this a go. And that's where you can then join that sports club. Or if you want to keep things simple, then you can go along to the campus sports session for that sports club instead.
Yeah, so just giving someone a familiar base, isn't it? Letting them know that it's there for them to explore and delve in as much or as little as they would like, without having to really commit to, I have to do this. If I turn up once, then I'm expected to join again. So it's giving them freedom to explore it in their own way, isn't it? If they can see what others do before they have to leap in and make a choice for themselves.
Definitely. And I think the beauty about sport is it does bring people together, whether you're spectating your local team, whether you're taking part in a team-based sport, or you're going along to your local walking group or your local jogging group, or you're supporting Manchester United or your favourite Super League team. Sport is a great way of bringing people together socially. It's a great way to create conversation, and it's a nice escape for people as well.
So in terms of, obviously we've talked about sport and why it's great to be involved in it physically, but obviously from your point of view, what would be the mental benefit to someone joining you in that? you're coming to study and there's an awful lot of pressure on you. Would you say there's a good release in coming to do sport to give you that break from what is kind of the monotony of studying?
Physical activity in itself allows everyone to escape from kind of day-to-day stresses, day-to-day pressures. It's an opportunity to be sociable. You can meet with a different group of people, maybe outside your course area, outside your colleagues. It's an opportunity to try something new that you haven't done before. But also physical activity, it boosts your mood. It increases those endorphins, and those endorphins are very, very important. It also helps reduce stress because it helps you get that release. It's also been proven to help reduce symptoms in things like depression. It's been proven to be helpful with students that are potentially feeling anxious. There are so many benefits from it, both physically and mentally, from taking part in sport.
Okay, so it's been really good to hear, like, from your point of view, that there's student-led sessions. The student environment is really boosted in sport. So it's, student-led, it's student-focused. But what would you say if there's students who are not feeling comfortable enough to approach those sessions? Maybe they're not comfortable leaving their student accommodation. They don't really feel ready to branch out of that comfort zone. So how do you encourage them into that activity that ultimately you kind of said will help them with those issues, but maybe they can't bridge that gap? So how would you help them to attend?
So all of our campus sport sessions are ran by student sport activators. So those are current students who are studying at university that have a vested interest in sport. They don't necessarily come from sporty backgrounds. They don't necessarily come from sport-based courses, but they just love sport and they've got a real enthusiasm for it. But we also pick these student sport activators based on kind of how friendly they are and how approachable they are as well, because that's really important to get people engaged in sport. So all of our sessions are ran by the student sport activators, and they are taught to engage students in those sessions or approach those students that are perhaps standing on the sideline and aren't sure about getting involved. They're there to make sure that you feel included in the session as much or as little as you like. And they're there to make sure that the session is comfortable and accessible and a really positive environment. They are really friendly and they are really helpful, and they always make sure they go that extra mile to make those students that are maybe feeling a bit uncomfortable feel comfortable and want to get involved. They're lovely.
So maybe if we could at this moment maybe ask Julie just to come in on helping us bridge that gap with students that haven't taken that step yet, but maybe are thinking about it, and how we can encourage them to use the support of ARU to bridge that gap between not really being comfortable outside of their comfort zone and approaching these sport activators that are doing their best to be, as a supporting and welcome environment for these people to approach, but they're not quite there yet, maybe.
Yeah, it's a really good question. And student engagement with each other and the encouragement that runs through this university, I think, is just fantastic on so many levels. And there are always those students as well who even that is too daunting for. Sometimes it's just really difficult to step out of, their accommodation. It's difficult to attend a lecture for some students. Anxiety can be so high and they can be really sensitive to everything that's around them as well. So what I want to say to those students is we have a team of peer wellbeing mentors who run activities, to encourage students who maybe do struggle with anxiety or social situations to come and start engaging. And they will also give information about all the other activities that are taking place. So they'll certainly give information about sports activities. And also for those students who are really, really struggling, they can come to the Counselling and Wellbeing Service for wellbeing check-ins or some counselling sessions, or some kind of support to help with the anxiety. So if we can aid a person with their anxiety to be able to find a way through that and step over that, then that's a step towards engaging with, you guys and physical activity and other activities in the university.
Moving that back to your point earlier about it being physical activity as opposed to just a sport label, anything you get involved in that gets you moving can be your physical activity. So when we talk of wellbeing sessions that are being held in university, if they're going to one of those sessions and it's a dancing night, I think salsa was the last one I saw where people were salsa dancing, that could be their step into that physical activity with yourselves, couldn't it? And that could be their kind of bridging gap between getting from their room into university life and then bridging that gap to then sport later on, if it leads that way.
Yeah, definitely, because taking part in that activity is moving your body. So it's being physically active. So that's a huge step already to go along and attend a session like that, to get moving and to be socialising with people at the same time. That student is already gaining all of the benefits of being physically active without even realising it. And then potentially their next step could be coming along to a campus sports session or signing up to one of our gyms or attending one of our one-off sessions that we run to get physically active.
That was a really interesting conversation to listen to. So thank you for all the information there. And also, Shell, I just want to ask you to kind of round us up. What are the takeaways, do you think, from this discussion that's just taken place?
I think the really big thing for everyone to take away from this is that there's a stepping stone process you can take into physical activity. We don't expect you to come to university and straight away sign up for a competitive team sport. Elle's given us great examples of how you can gently ease into these activities. And I think even from yourself, if people have got anxiety or issues that are kind of narrowing how they can explore their university life, sport and activity, and just getting moving and meeting new people will just give them the encouragement they need to actually fulfill their whole university experience. So small stepping stones into something, and it doesn't need to be all at once. You can have a timetabled routine with it so you can fit it in your studies, but just to let you know that you don't have to go right down to the competitive team straight away. The sport team are there to bring you in slowly and make sure that you find something you're comfortable with, something that allows you to socialise. I think Elle's big thing was socialise outside your course. I personally have 13 people on my course. That's a very small number of people. So if I want to expand that people, then knowing I could go and even watch a sport match and get to know people is just a really nice way of knowing that there's a team out there for everyone, whether it's in a competitive sport or just supporting them. And that, there is something for everyone. You've just got to kind of be brave enough to ask. And if you're not quite brave enough yet, then there's steps you can take to get there.
That's a great summary. So really what you're saying is it's for everyone and there is a way through for everyone who wants to engage. If you've been impacted by anything we've spoken about in this episode, please reach out to the Counselling and Wellbeing team and make the most of the support we can offer you. Visit aru.ac.uk/wellbeing to find out more about our service and how to get in touch.